All right, guys, we're going to combine all of Chapter 11 together for the most part, except for one section. We're going to talk about volume and surface area. A few things before we start. You're going to see some things that are going to be letters that represent things that you need to understand. The first one we're going to talk about is when you have a capital B. That means area of base. When you have P, it stands for perimeter. Then you're going to have things like H, which you know is height, B for base, things like that. But then you're also going to have this cursive L. What that stands for is lateral height or slanted height. Either one of those would work. The official name, of course, is lateral height, but it means slanted height. So using that, we are going to go into the first set of questions here. This is what we call a triangular prism. All these formulas are going to be given to you on a formula sheet. You just have to know where to plug certain things in. Also, you might have to use things like Pythagorean theorem or SOHCAHTOA possibly to find information given. So the first one wants us to find surface area. The surface area formula is height times perimeter plus 2 times the area of the base. So when we plug everything into our formula, we know our height is going to be the line that connects the two triangles, so 6. P, we don't know what P is yet, so over here we're going to find P. Remember earlier we told you P stands for perimeter of the base. To do that, I need to know what this line is, correct? So, look right here. You notice there's a right triangle, so we're actually going to have to use Pythagorean theorem for that. So we're going to say 3 squared plus 3 squared equals C squared. When you do that, you get 9 plus 9, which is 18 equals C squared. Of course, we also have to take the square root of that, so we get that C equals 4.2. So if I want to find the perimeter, I'm going to take this line, which is 3, this line, which is 3, and this line, which is 4.2. I add them all together. So 3 plus 4.2, and it gives me 10.2. All right? So now we know 10.2 goes in for perimeter plus 2 times, we got to figure out the area of the base. Area of the base is 1/2 of the base and the height of a triangle, because the base is a triangle, right? So 1/2 of the base is going to be this 3, the height is going to be that 3, because remember they make a right angle. So 1/2 of 3 times 3. When you multiply those together, you get 1/2 of 9, which is 4.5. All right, so we're going to plug that in there. At this point, we've got everything in its spot, so we just need to plug that into our calculator. When you do that and plug it into your calculator, you get the surface area equals 70.2 units squared. And we remember it's area, so it's still squared. Nothing really changes with that, even though we're dealing with a 3-dimensional shape. All right. For volume, the volume formula is base, which is big B, so area of the base, times the height. Well, we already know our area of the base was 4.5, so we're taking 4.5 and multiplying it by our height, which was 6. Pretty simple formula there. When you do that, you get 27 units cubed, and you know it's cubed because it is volume. All right, pretty easy for that one, hopefully. For our next one, guys, this is a rectangular prism. These are a little bit more straightforward. They're a little bit easier. You just need to label which one's your length, your width, and your height at all times. Your length doesn't really matter which one's which, but I'm going to label that length, this width, and this height. That way I know what to plug into each part of the formula. So the first one we're doing surface area equals 2 times the length, which is 4, and the width, which is 4, plus 2 times the length, which is 4, the height, which is 4. So this one we're lucky because all of them are the same. And then the last one, 2 times the width, which is 4, and then the height, which is 4. Again, just plug all that in your calculator the way it is with parentheses, makes it very easy, and you get 96 units squared. All right. For volume, this one's actually a little bit easier. Volume equals length times width times height. We said our length was 4, our width was 4, and also our height is 4. So volume would equal 64 units cubed. All right? So that one shouldn't be too bad. That's one of the easier ones to do. Next up, we have a cylinder. A cylinder is like a can, right? So for this one, let's start with surface area. Surface area says 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi rh. Now, we're not doing lateral area because hopefully you notice this formula and this formula are the exact same. You just got to plug it in. So it's part of the lateral area. So we're not doing that one. But, so if we're doing surface area, we're going to say 2 pi, which our radius is 8 squared, plus 2 pi times 8 times our height, which is 12. All right? For this one, guys, I'm going to leave it in terms of pi until the very end. I'm going to show you how to do this for this one. I'm not going to do it for every single one, but they might ask you to leave some of these in terms of pi. So you want to do it piece by piece. So for this one, we would do 8 squared, which is 64. 64 times 2 gives me 128 pi. All right? And then 2 times 8 times 12 is 192 pi. So this one, again, I'm leaving in terms of pi for the moment, but I'm going to clean it up here shortly. If they ask for just rounded to the nearest tenth, you don't have to worry about it in terms of pi. So when you add 128 and 192 together, you get 320 pi units squared. All right? You could also go ahead and round that to the nearest tenth, which means we're going to go ahead and take 320 and multiply it by pi. And when you do that, you get 1005.3 units squared. Again, don't always have to leave it in terms of pi. I'm showing you one example so that way you have it if need be. All right. For volume, volume is going to equal pi radius squared. So pi 8 squared times our height, which is 12. I'm not going to bother leaving this one in terms of pi. I'm just going to go ahead and say let's multiply all that together in our calculator. If we do that, we get 2,412.7 units, and because it's volume, cubed. All right, on to the back now. When we get onto the back here, we start out with a sphere. All right, a sphere is just pretty much like a ball. So let's go ahead and find the surface area of the sphere, all right? So surface area equals 4 pi radius, which is 3 squared. Again, you could leave this in terms of pi. I'm not going to. I'm just going to go ahead and multiply all that together, and we get 113.1 units squared, all right? And then for volume, we're going to do the same thing, use our formula, so 4/3 pi radius, which is 3 squared, or excuse me, 3 cubed, my bad. Now that we have all that in there, we plug it into our calculator, and luckily for us, this becomes the same number, but does that mean that they are the same value? And the answer to that is no, because when you do this, one is measured in units squared, one's measured in units cubed, so one is definitely larger because it's units cubed, all right? Next up, we have a cone. For our cone, you're going to notice that you're going to need a few things. You're going to need a slanted height, which you actually have for these. You're also going to need a regular height, which you do not have yet. So it's like drawing a line up. We need to figure that out. But you're also going to need the radius. And here's the thing that throws a lot of people off. This is actually not a radius. This is a diameter. Therefore, if I want to know each piece, you can assume in a cone that it's been split in half. All right. So now that we know that, we can go ahead and solve for the height. Let's solve for the height first. If I want to solve for x, I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So x squared plus 4 squared equals 12 squared. X squared plus 16 equals 144. Go ahead and subtract the 16, and you get 128. And then square root that, and you get x equals 11.3. All right? And that's a rounded answer. That's fine. You can have rounded answers for this. So let's plug everything into our formula for surface area. Surface area equals pi radius, which remember we said the radius was 4. So pi 4 squared plus pi radius, which is 4, times slanted height. L, remember, is slanted height or lateral height. So times 12. Again, you could leave this in terms of pi. We're not going to. We're just going to go ahead and multiply all that together at one time. If we do that, we get 201.1 units squared. All right. Now we can go ahead and solve for the volume using the same information because it's the same picture. So volume equals 1/3 pi, radius again is 4 squared times, this is where we need h. Remember, h was our x right here, correct? So we're going to use 11.3 for our height. Again, leave it in terms of pi if you want, but we're just going to go ahead and multiply it all together at one time. When you multiply it all together at one time, you get 189.3 units cubed. All right. Lastly, we have a pyramid. Now, with a pyramid, we need to figure out big B. We need to figure out P. We also need to figure out a height and a lateral height. Let's figure out the lateral height first, because we noticed in this picture, we have a height. It's 14. This would be our line right here. Now, this is a part that messes a lot of people up. If this whole line is 11, then we can assume that this has been cut in half using a lot of the rules that we have and know that that should be 5.5, right? So now we need to figure out our lateral height, okay? So to do that, we are going to say 5.5 squared plus 14 squared equals c squared, or you could just go ahead and put that as the L if you want. I'm just going to go ahead and solve this. 5.5 squared plus 14 squared gives you 226.25. You square root that and you get 15.0 when you round. So that's our L. All right. At this point, we can go ahead and find our perimeter as well, since we know everything for that. Remember, perimeter is just adding up all the pieces to the base. So we have 11 plus 4 plus 11 plus 4. When we add all that together, we get 30 units. All right. And then lastly, we can go ahead and find our big B, which is our area. To do that, we're going to just say base times height, or length times width. So 11 times 4, which gives us 44. Doing all that, now we have all the information we need to go ahead and solve for this. So let's solve for surface area. Surface area equals 1/2 of the slanted height, which we said was 15.0, right? Or we're just going to say 15 because we don't need the 0.0 in there anymore. Times P, which we said was 30, plus B, which was 44. Go ahead and just plug all that into your calculator. Make sure that you're using the parentheses, and you get 269 units squared. And again, it is area, so it's units squared. All right. Lastly, we're going to do the volume over here. Volume is 1/3 times big B, which we said was 44, times our height, which is 14. All right. We go ahead and just plug all that into our calculator, and we get 205.3 units cubed. Now, this has inches, so if you wanted to use inches instead of units, that's fine. I just got in the habit of using all the units, so I went ahead and did that. All right, that's your notes for pretty much all of Chapter 11 except for one section. Please make sure you remember, area is measured in units squared and volume is measured in units cubed. You're going to need that for what we're about to go over in our next class, all right? So make sure you have these completed, and we'll see you in class.